everyone, welcome to another episode. Sean Hammerhand from Platypus Brewing and my good mate Andy Hilditch.
Hi, mate.
So Andy, who do we have on today?
Well, yeah, this is an exciting one for me. It's the former Scotland hooker, Gordon Bulloch, and played for Scotland, played for the British Lions, and actually captained the British Lions. Got it on the midweek side, but got a couple of tests as well. But he's also one of my best friends. I've known Gordon for a long time. Really super guy. Very interesting in terms of his view on rugby, his relationship with rugby, and I think that it's a really interesting listen, this one, and hope you enjoy it. Welcoming Gordon Bulloch to this great segment of our big conversations that we have on the lead up to the World Cup. And just so Gordon gets an idea, one of the things that we're trying to do here is just really try and drum up some enthusiasm, give people insight into the World Cup that's coming up. Sean here will introduce Platypus, but from my point of view, just a rugby enthusiast. I coach a bit of rugby here in town, so I'm looking forward to talking to my good mate Gordon. But Shawnee, you want to go?
Yeah, absolutely, Gordon. Thank you very much, mate, for joining us.
No worries.
Time's very valuable, but yeah, look, US unfortunately is not in the World Cup this year, and we will have some guests on at some point to talk about the state of US rugby. But it's wonderful to talk about your good self, your pre, during, and post professional career, and obviously, hopefully, there's a little anecdote or two of you guys being roommates. So I hope that comes through. So
No.
But look. We'll do an intro in terms of your professional career, so we don't need to go through that here, mate, because we'll put that on edit
Sure.
that, put that on a pre. So we're going to talk through. Did you want to lead off? Or you happy?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things for me when we were talking to Dad about it, and we are the same age, so you can't lie, was I remember 87, and he spoke about the somewhat shambolic start in terms of just a brand new competition. Do you remember it when it's the first one?
Vague recollections.
Yeah, me too.
I think who did we play? I think we played France in the first round, and we scored a try. Matt Duncan scored a try.
Yeah,
And
that's
he was
right.
a Glasgow boy, so he scored a try in the last minute. But we also remember John Rudd getting injured because that was his last kind of game for Scotland. So
Yes,
that was the big thing there. But 87 was a bit of a blur. 91 was the big one because I was at school then. And my old boy was selling tickets through the rugby club, so he couldn't get rid of half of them because there was like games on in like Wednesday afternoon, which was unheard of in those days. So I took them all to school and was handing them out. And I was even handing out once for the semi-final, which we didn't know who we were in, and suddenly we were playing England. It was like, whoa, here we go. So that was the favourite around school.
Yeah, it was. Because I mean, I'm just going to kind of say, well, we're the same age, and I vaguely remember John Kirwan's try. That's probably the big thing. But after that, and the interesting thing is I probably remember it more because Dad was there. So you're saying 90. So did you? I mean, it was a very famous Scotland game when that was the kick that went awry. It didn't. Yes, that was the kick it didn't. Do you remember that? No, that was semi-final.
I mean, it was a dolly. I mean, if you drop a dolly catch in cricket, if you miss an open goal in football, it was that easy. It was, he was maybe 15 yards out, 3 steps in, and missed it. How he missed, I don't know. So
well, I tell you what. Why don't we'll go back on a few things in your career, but what do you think right now? That performance against France was outstanding, and they came back, but it was a weakened French side. That was not a weakened French side this weekend. What's your thoughts?
No, they're just not scared. They seem to just lap up pressure. And the big thing with this Scotland side is they take their chances when they're given. For many years, I played Scotland sides that couldn't score if we had 20 minutes of pressure on someone's goal line. Now they score for fun. 4 tries on Saturday in the south of France. It's just unheard of. But they seem to be doing it. It's always been Gregor's kind of philosophy. Other team are going to score 25 points. So therefore, we've got to work out how we score 26. And that's most games that's happened. So he's always said that. Listen, doesn't matter what happens, we need to score points. So, and he's taking that to heart, and the guys are playing for him. Like Russell had a tremendous game on Saturday again. You keep on thinking, is he going to slightly go over the hill and start kind of misfiring? But he just seems to be up for it. So I suppose it's in France, so he's got probably quite a lot to prove. But no, I think they've got a tough task. I mean, it's not the easiest group to be in, and at a World Cup you need to put a run of games together. Scotland needs to do that to get the group. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask, one of the things that, is strength and depth. I mean, it's a really good squad, but is there enough strength and depth to get you through the pool? That's one.
Yeah, I think we've got enough fit guys on the field just now. It's whether you can put a run together. I mean, there's only ever been one. England did it in 2003, but you need to put that run together. We've got to win 2 massive games in the pool and not slip up the other games. Then you've got to win a quarter-final, a semi-final, and a final. You've got to put 6 or 7 games together. Scotland can put 2 or 3 games together now, but we haven't won a tournament for over 20 years, where you've actually got, a 5 Nations, you need to win 4 or 5 games to win it. We haven't done it. We've played really, really well, but we just haven't done it. And then World Cup, we quarter-final pretty much 9 times out of 10, and then we're done. So they need to find a way of doing things differently. This side's got every chance, but it's a big ask.
I agree.
Yeah, look, just in terms of Scotland rugby generally, I mean, my view as an Aussie, Scotland's always a bit of the bogey team in the past, where we'd have form, but play in the autumn internationals over and play Scotland, and we'd be handsomely beaten. Testament to the Scotland team, but that's changed now. I mean, Scotland is a true top 5 team.
Oh, well, it is.
It truly is. Yeah, very much so. And so, I need to have a look at the draws. I don't think Australia has a chance, other than not the pool games at least, because we're on the other side. Yeah. So, been a bit fortunate there. We have Wales in our team. But in terms of Scotland rugby, it's even in the last 10, 15 years, it's really come of age in terms of being a true world force. What changes?
10, 15, I think, pushing it.
Well, I'm not saying anything. As the number 1 nation in the world, I've got to be very careful. I've been very
I think
modest.
Over the last 10, 15, we've managed to pull out a big game. But I think over the last even 24 months, we seem to then put 2 together, 3 together. But I think we've also had some dreadful ones in there as well. So,
I mean, Gordon, what do you see at the grassroots level? Which takes 10 to 20 years to cultivate. What are you seeing in Scotland at the grassroots level, the schoolboy level?
I think they've got more of that together now. For a long while, I'd always talk about my brother. My brother had more talent than I had, when 15, 16 years old. And he learned to tuck the ball under his arm. He played centre, tuck the ball under his arm and score tries. He didn't have to learn to pass. He didn't have to learn to tackle. And therefore, he was great until people caught up with him. And then suddenly he was asked to do these things and he never learned them. So he never learned the motor skills when he was younger. I think now we're getting into a stage where you're getting these guys into a competitive environment a lot more. They're playing meaningful games, whereas games used to be, the competition factor in the game was over within 10 minutes. Someone were 3 tries up and the energy getting out of the game. They're now playing against and being asked to really play hard. And I think that's starting to show. The strength and depth is tremendous. The squad was picked yesterday. They left Stuart McInally out as captain. So you've got strength and depth in just about every single position now. And we're also starting to unearth, some good Anglos where that kind of fell off for a while when we were picking the kilted Kiwis. But now there's some good Anglos coming in, and there's strength and depth in every single position. Ali Price, he's not the number 1 nailed on as you'd think he would be starting a Lions test. You come back to Scotland, you think, oh, I'm the top top boy now, but he's not getting picked. Some days he has to work for his position, which is great for Scottish rugby, because too many times when I played, 20 years ago, you had guys who were inked in, on the Monday and nobody challenged them. And that just means that people don't have to play to their full potential, and you don't get a winning side.
I think they've been smart as well. And until you can let us know what you think of it, like what the public perception is. Ireland have one or two players as of England, but Scotland have been very, very smart about. You don't want to call it recruitment because it's not, but unearthing people, but then
Project
providing
players.
yes. But they've also done a very good job of two things. One is allowing some players to go and play elsewhere, like Hoggy. You've got Finn Russell, obviously, fandom, but he's now back. But they've also done very well about bringing players in, like is it Tuipulotu, the what's he called, the centre?
Don't ask me.
Oh, I know, but as soon as I opened my mouth, I thought that's.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
I do. Well, we'll just say that. But they've done a really good job. That they've got Glasgow and Edinburgh playing good rugby, so there's actually a place for those international players essentially based. And has it been? Is it recognised that it's a good strategy by the Scottish public?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've been taken to heart. You know, the guy Schumann. You know, it's a bit like when Joe Root plays cricket. It's all Root and it's Shoe. So I think, you know, they've done it well, and the fact that they're playing for Scottish clubs, you know, gives them that identity. I think if they were coming in, I remember Brendan Laney played for us back in mid 2000s or early 2000s. He came off the plane on the Friday and was in the starting lineup. He had never even been in Scotland. You know, we were shaking his hand, saying, "Hello, how you doing? Oh, I'm playing fullback tomorrow. Is that right?" And people who've, you know, worked all their lives to get this chance weren't getting it. So I think now that it's been done in the right way. They're having to serve their apprenticeship in the clubs, and then if they're good enough, they're getting their chance. And I think you also see some of the experienced players like Hoggy, like Finn, whoever, can see actually we need a blend. You can't just do it with homegrown talent. So you need to have a bit of both.
So with all this positivity, are you actually going to watch the World Cup, knowing you as I do? And we went to, Gordon and I, when we were younger, went out to Canada, and Gordon helped coach Toronto Scottish. We were there in a bit of a jolly, and they set up this big evening to watch. I think it was like Australia, New Zealand. And your comment to me was, I do it all the time. What do I want to go and watch it for? But it is amazing how
no.
You know, it's the job and so on. So now you've retired for so long, sorry, years and years, and you're a skinny fell runner now. Do you find yourself actually just creeping back into that fandom, as in, I'm just a Scottish fan of rugby again, or how's that dynamic working?
That was a hard dynamic for someone like me. I struggled with it for a long time, and I've not been to a game for years. I stopped playing rugby 2005 for Scotland, retired professionally 2006. I was on the board in 2007, so I kind of went straight into that kind of buffy administrator type role, and I kind of probably got a bit of bitterness from it a wee bit. So I kind of came away from it for a good few years. I've not really found my way back in. I've got a daughter who plays hockey, field hockey. So I'll watch the occasional game, but I'm getting a little bit excited for the World Cup. Depends if there's any cycling on or golf on that might take precedent, but I think it'll be good. But it's one of these things that hasn't quite built yet. You know, there's been a lot going on. Glasgow have had the UCI World Cycling Championships. It's been awesome. We've been watching it out the back of our house. And so it's kind of hasn't quite crept up yet. I think that Scotland's, you know, playing really, really well in France and then beating them at home, that's starting to pick up things, and now squads are being selected. So it's building. It is building.
Good. Yeah.
That's great. Look, I'll switch gears on you here, just for our viewers. You know, you've had an incredible career, and just a bit of an insight into back into the early professional days. Talk to me about you get selected for your national team, and you run out on a Murrayfield and play the Saffers. Talk to me about the feeling you had in the build up to that, and just the entire sort of event and what it meant for you.
Oh, growing up, it was always rugby. I was, you know, I used to carry my dad's whistle. He was a referee. and carry a spare whistle and be dragged around every rugby ground going. I would play many rugby from young age, and watching Scotland, watched them, the 84 Grand Slam. I was in the Red Terrace, and I was in the Red Terrace again for the 1990, so it was always there. It was just part of the culture. We went to the pub before, watched internationals, or you watch them, the away ones. I was at, went to Dublin a few times, things like that. So it was always just part of what I did. But it was always a kind of just a hobby, because rugby was an amateur sport. It was one of these things you wanted to do, but it was just a hobby. But then suddenly went pro and everything got a little bit serious, and you got a letter through the door and it said, we're going to pay you to do this. Not very much, to be fair, in the first instance, but that was it. So then
it was a bit more than me as a junior marketing person.
I tell you what, it probably wasn't. The first contract Scotland handed out were 8 grand, 12 grand, and 20, I think. And they got bumped to 10, 20, and 30. Which, and people are going, you want me to leave my job for this?
Yeah.
I was a student, so it was just pocket money. But certainly things have changed in those days. But yeah, so that's everything you do. When you pull that blue shirt on, you think, actually, I've realised my ambition here. Great, South Africa was a different story. I think it was 14-3 at half time. Thought, this is going all right. We've got a chance. 68-10 at the end. You're thinking, oh, that's a different kind of rugby. But that was just the way of it. I think it's taken Scotland 20 years to try and drag itself into the professional era. We were still training in mud heaps and wondering why our ball skills weren't very good. You look at the facilities now. Edinburgh, Glasgow have both got, great facilities that they can attract players. They train indoors. They train on, all the best equipment. And now they can compete. But back then you think, they're playing and handling up at the high veld and all these wonderful skills and coming in, and we're kind of back in the 60s and 70s, just every man and every rock. It doesn't work.
Interesting, and actually, just going on from your point there about you're a student at the time, and the game turns pro, and you pull on the blue shirt and you do what you do, and it's part hobby, part sort of pocket money, so forth. And then you have to dedicate your career, so to speak, to rugby for a period of time. And then there's the transition post-rugby into your professional career. How did you find that? I mean, you're playing professional rugby for quite a period of time. And did you feel as if you were easily able to transition into your career, your professional career post-rugby, or was it a bit of a challenge for you?
No, definitely a bit of a challenge. I think guys who had a career and were kind of midway through and then could maybe do a kind of part flexible working because they were on the career ladder, they found that much easier. I think where I kind of stepped straight from being a student and not really knowing what I wanted to do, I went to uni, did some courses, things like that. I did sport in the community, so I wanted to be involved in sport. But then suddenly you turn 31, 32 and you decide, okay, there's no one going to pay the wages anymore. You're going to find a different route. And I really still didn't know what I wanted to do. So that kind of it's a big challenge, because you kind of feel, okay, I should go down the route that people expect me to do, wear a suit, get a desk job, work your way up.
3 days later.
Hey, we're back.
Good.
All right, that piece out.
Yeah.
Gordon, we were just talking about transition to post-rugby and career, and you talk about the challenges there. So you're spending you came from school, college into your professional career, and then from there, into professional rugby, and then from there to transition into your professional career and the challenges that you had there.
Oh, just tremendously difficult. And I'm not the only one. I've spoken to other guys as well who've struggled with you come off a high, you're playing in front of 70, 80,000 people, Six Nations. It's the only thing you've ever wanted to do. And then suddenly you got to do something else, which is a lot less entertaining, a lot less exciting. And someone wants you to get up at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. It's like, it's difficult. And I think, a few people say you find a job you love. It's not like a job, but I've had one of them, and then somebody says you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's tremendously difficult. So, but I've kind of found a niche over the last few years. My brother and I enjoy building, so we've actually I've built a few places onto the house here with the help of architects, and we built a place in north of Scotland. We built a kind of a 2 holiday houses up there. So that kind of gets you back to working with your hands and not sitting at a desk and fresh air. So I mean, rugby, giving up rugby is difficult, especially if you don't have something to go back to. You know, a few guys who I played with, they had things to go back to. Whereas if you never really had a career out with rugby, it was difficult because you were on a different career ladder than your friends, or a different way up the career ladder than some of your friends. You know, like Andy had a serious job at that point in time I finished rugby. And suddenly you're pitched in with the graduates and things like that. So it can be quite difficult. So I think I've been lucky. I've found things I wanted to do now, building, working with my hands, not sitting at a desk, but I'm blending that with running the family company as well. So we do galvanizing and powder coating. So it's industrial coatings. So it's, but I'm not there 100% of the time, which is quite nice. So I can use my leadership skills, but also then find a balance by doing things outside as well.
Yeah. And going back to the rugby, I mean, you've got a long career, and I mean, obviously, I followed it, all of it. But I mean,
free tickets all the way.
You what?
Free tickets all the way,
and a couple of jerseys as well. I must, and for those of you when we're viewing, people who are watching this, it was great at the start of Gordon's career because it was the days when the shirts fit. And then I remember one of the greatest, in fact, it was a World Cup. After your second World Cup, probably back in New Zealand, the white one. And I was like, oh, that is beautiful. And the smirk on his face as he handed me what basically looked like a shirt that would fit on a toy doll. And you were playing against, who was the hooker for New Zealand then you played against?
Probably Anton Oliver or something like that.
And yeah. Was it Anton Oliver? Is that his name?
Probably, yeah. So you got Anton Oliver's shirt and Keith Wood's shirt, did you not?
Yeah, I've got Keith Wood. I still sport that now, but that's the old cotton one, which was great because it's not so. But the Oliver one, it was skin tight. First time New Zealand had worn that really skin tight jersey. So so I managed. Yeah, I've got a few tickets and things out of your career. But what was the when you look back, you always had the World Cups, and we talked about that and it's leading up. But I think out of all the people we talk to, the people around the world, you're one of the you're going to be the only one that went on a Lions tour, and that's one of the biggest things that I remember. And I think the Lions is a really weird one in the US because they just don't understand it because it's a bit weird. But for those who don't know, it's every 4 years, and it's the best team from England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales to play against New Zealand, South Africa, or Australia. And Gordon, you're in 2. I mean, what's your abiding memory of those tours?
Oh, 2 completely different tours. When was it? 2001. I probably was in better form than 2005, but I didn't get selected. It was the one where Graham Hendry took a lot of his Welsh cohort. So I got called up. Pretty luckily, it was in Vail. I was in Colorado.
That's right. Remember
for a bit of summer rugby and a bit of fitness. I got a call at 6 a.m, and 25 hours later, I stepped off a plane and Townsville in way up north in Australia. It's a phenomenal thing to go on because it is almost like creating a kind of an environment that just kind of goes along with this tour party, and whether it goes into the heart of Australia or some of the islands off New Zealand or some of that, it's just this throng of red-shirted idiots who follow it around and just bring themselves silly for 6 weeks. So it's great because it does build, and it's one of these things. It only happens every 4 years, and you're playing with the guys who you're knocking living bells out of. It's every Six Nations and every Celtic Cup or every European Cup. So it's really good that way. It is special.
Yeah, it is, and as a fan, it's quite unique and lots of stories that will never be told in public.
Correct. I had the opportunity to watch the last Lions tour in Brisbane, actually, or in Australia, sorry, the Brisbane match, and it was really special from a spectator standpoint. And we lost that particular game, but just everything around it. and the build up to it, and everyone's in great spirits. And it's not like when Australia plays New Zealand or Queensland plays New South Wales. It was a really, really interesting, great time for spectators. Can only imagine.
Yeah, well, actually, Brisbane, I got a cap the first test at the Gabba 2001. Came on for something like 8 minutes for Keith Wood blood sub or something like that. But that was just one of the nights of my career, just because the Lions took over the Gabba that night. The next two games, the Australian marketing team managed to put yellow everywhere, but that night in the Gabba we got it right. There was just red throngs everywhere, and we won. Driscoll scored a cracking try. I think Jason Robinson scored a try. But yeah, that's one of these things that'll stay for you right till the end.
Good man, fantastic.
I'm gonna I'll leave it one thing. I've been over in the US, mate, for about 20 years now, and we're working hard and promoting rugby, and I'm coaching. And Sean, believe it or not, still kind of plays. Amazing. Those purple shorts you get, those knees. He's almost in that age category now. But I mean, in terms of, the US is not going to this World Cup. It's the qualification, yeah. We're trying. I mean, your experiences of being in the US? Do you have hope that rugby will really take off, or do you think there's still obstacles out there?
Yeah, I kind of always thought they'd kick off and kick on when they got sevens into the Olympics, because that was the big chat. Once it went to the Olympics, all this money would be freed up, and suddenly it would take off as a huge sport. But I was kind of surprised to learn that they weren't at this World Cup. So I'm not sure where it's gone wrong, because I know they've started up some of the kind of semi-pro leagues, and they certainly seem to have a bit. But it's just such a big place. I mean, how do you actually commercially approach that type of thing? When you've got people, from one end of the country playing against the other country, it's not something you can fly there overnight and fly back. You've got to be there 3 or 4 days in advance, and it's just a big ask. For a while, people come across and play over I remember who the chap played for Bath. Tremendous bit.
Dan Lyle. Was it Dan Lyle?
Yeah, you seem to crop up quite a lot of those guys when I was playing, but now you don't hear about a lot of Americans playing. So maybe they want to try and look at what we do in terms of project players for Scotland, is try and get some of their best athletes, get them into clubs over here, and then try and grow it that way, because it's really, really difficult to catch up now just trying to create homegrown players.
Yeah, the catch-up thing is interesting, because you get the likes of Portugal, Chile are going, and they've had, they've really learned from other development type programs. But the US, I think you're right. We suffer a little bit here in Houston with very siloed approach. Right, well, we do this in our club and we do that. And I mean, we're a Division 3 side, so we've got amateur players who have never played rugby, and you have to be open and honest with everything and share. And we do come up against barriers, which is crazy. But we hope that things like this podcast or this recording that we do will give us a bit of insight and excited. But I mean, that's it, Johnny. Anything else?
That's all I had.
40. Try and watch some rugby. It's really good. It's good.
It's not a bad
sport.
game. Get introduced to it.
Yeah, you should try it out. Love to your family.
No worries.
Saying that. And thank you so much for doing this. It's been good to see you, buddy. And we will talk soon. And what we'll do is we'll have
to get you a Platypus jersey too. So
and hopefully one bigger than the one that's hugging my chest area. But and red doesn't go well with the ginger, but it's no longer ginger, so that's not a problem anymore.
Yeah, we'll get one over to you.
Yeah. But thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Cheers. We'll have to
soon.
catch up after the Irish game.
I know.
One of us might be crying, and I don't think it'll be you guys.
I know. I know. All right, bud.
Anyway, cheers.
Thanks, Gordon. Cheers,
mate.
mate.
Bye.
Bye. So, that was Gordon. Good guy, yeah. He's really. I mean, he is good stories, good insight. What did you take away from it?
Yeah, I look, a couple of things, Andy. I think in terms of what Gordon mentioned, one of the big ones for me was actually his transition post-professional, so post-playing, and we asked those questions about these guys and girls. They give their life to the game.
Yeah.
But then after that, you need to earn an income.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, Gordon's response on that, how the challenges of transitioning from playing in front of 70,000 people.
Yeah, that was a big point.
Down to basically a cubicle. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, he didn't, but he was saying that. I mean, in experience-wise, I mean, we've never been in front of that many people, but it's such an alien thought. I thought that was really good. I thought the other interesting point, which I know very well, but it was really good he articulated it well, of just the fact that, rugby isn't, we're nerds, right? We love our rugby, we talk about it, we talk about it all the time, but actually a professional player, you just assume it's like that. But actually, I know him, I know him well, and that came across. It's quite interesting when they're not rugby nerds. Yeah. It's a hobby and a kind of a job.
Yeah, sometimes they just want to find their way away from the game, which is completely understandable. So, probably to cap this episode off, come on, you guys are roommates.
Well, roommates sounds a little bit more intimate than it was. He had a really big house, and I basically rented off him.
Okay.
But it was interesting. The biggest thing, honestly, was I play rugby at the weekends, and so would he. He was playing in the Six Nations, I was not.
Very much.
And I came back feeling more sore, but his battle scars, Six Nations battle scars, my goodness. But yeah, he was just a consummate professional, very interesting, but did really, really like the time away from the game. And we had a lot of fun, but not for this podcast.
Well, again, guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all your comments. And proudly presented by Platypus Brewing. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
We didn't say anything disparaging about the English, did we?